What's going on, everybody? On today's episode of the No Huddle Show, we are back. We are at the NovaCare. Football is here, and we have an OTA practice to talk about, which means we're not talking about the draft. We're not talking about free agency. We are talking about this actual roster, how players looked. We got a chance to look at Carson Wentz for the first time, really since his ACL injury, and move around. Me and Zack talk about that. We talk about the running back position, the nickel cornerback. We now know who that is. That was revealed. The running back position, rookies that stand out. And we try to talk about this White House topic, what the players have said about it, and what they kind of have planned coming up. So, jam-packed episode, plenty of football talk, also the White House talk, just plenty to talk about. So it was a really enjoyable episode. But as always, if you're listening to this on YouTube, I got a comment, people saying I don't appreciate the YouTube fans. I love the YouTube fans. So I really appreciate you guys that listen on YouTube. One episode, we'll do an episode completely of questions from YouTube. But if you are, go subscribe. I would really appreciate it. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Spreaker. So really, wherever you can get podcasts from, we are on there. Go subscribe. Leave us that 5-star review. We really appreciate it. We read a review and a question every episode. We have one today from Philly Fan 18. So lots to talk about, and let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? No Huddle Show. Eliot, Shorr-Parks. I am here with Zack, and we are at the NovaCare complex because football, at least football without pads, is back. The Eagles finally held a practice today, full practice. This wasn't like the rookie mini camp. We only got to see 10 or 15 minutes. So is this our first one we've done together at the NovaCare? It is. All right. So this is
momentous occasion.
Yeah. Welcome to the NovaCare recording booth, which is just a room upstairs at the media house. But we are here, and since we're here, like I said, that means football is back. This was your first time to watch a full Eagles practice, right?
Yeah, and of course it rained, and we had to be pushed inside.
Correct.
We're 90 people, and like 50 media members were all squished into the indoor area.
So it was very nice to at least we got a chance to watch it, though. So that was good.
I don't want to complain too much.
I know. Now that the off season's been going, man, like I've been trying to kill time. I did an hour and a half of hot yoga this week. Like it is.
Wow,
I know.
Yoga.
I'm still very sore, but it was a good workout. But I'm very sore. But anyway, watching football is obviously better. So. We have a bunch to talk about from today's practice. I have a list here of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 main takeaways that we had from basically an hour, 45-minute, 2-hour session today.
Plus talking with Doug and Carson.
Yeah, and then Doug and exactly. They talked today, so lots of news at the NovaCare. From here on out, we'll be getting about once a week, so things are really starting to ramp up. We'll be seeing this team more and more. Obvious first takeaway, I mean, it was what everyone was waiting to see, and in my opinion, completely exceeded expectations. Carson Wentz today, I thought he looked great.
Yeah, I mean, when he talked to us, he kind of like wouldn't really tell us what he was going to do because we spoke to him beforehand, and I at first I thought maybe he was just going to do like the handoffs and just kind of stand near his guys and root them on.
I didn't even think he would do that.
And then all of a sudden he's like doing footwork drills. He's throwing the ball.
Yep.
And his movement was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't even paying attention to where the ball was going necessarily. I was looking at his legs, how he was moving, and the power he's kind of putting on the throws. And he looked like Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was blown away by it.
So when he talked before practice, my initial takeaway was I thought he looked a little skinnier than normal.
Yeah. Oh, I totally thought the same thing.
It looks like he's definitely down.
That probably comes with just being on one leg for.
Right, not being able to do as much cardio. Although, I mean, I guess you would think you'd put on weight. I would definitely put on weight if I
just eat a bunch of stuff. And
all the yoga's
that's
not
why
going
he's Carson Wentz and we're
that's why we're recording upstairs. But no, I mean, I thought he did look skinnier. I mean, I guess he hasn't been able to lift as much, but I thought he looked skinnier. But like you said, he talked about what he might do, what he might not do. Outside of just handing the ball off, I mean, you mentioned it. He was, I don't want to say cutting, but he was definitely dropping back, moving around.
And he was moving his knee, like the knee that's bad. I saw he was running from drill to drill, like
right. Yeah, no, and then after, so he did all the individual drills, which if you've never seen an Eagles practice, is basically he, handed the ball off to running backs, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't. But when you're talking about a torn ACL, you're taking the ball from the center, you're turning, you're backpedaling and giving it to the running back. So that's a fair amount of movement and, moving of your legs and your hips. Then he was doing a drill where he would take the ball, get the ball from the snap, turn around, go towards the corner of the end zone and then fire it, throw it into the corner of the end zone. So he was moving quite a bit there. He did a few drills where he would back up and then the quarterback coach would tell him to go left, right, left, right. He was doing a fair amount of stuff and not only just doing it, looking really smooth while he did it. So let me ask you this. After seeing this, have your expectations changed at all for, I guess, first we can start with training camp, but really more the start of the regular season?
Yeah, well, I mean, a big thing will be how he feels like tomorrow and like in the next couple of days after the first day he like put weight on the knee and stuff like that. But I at this point I'd be pretty shocked if he's not starting week 1. Like you can't walk away from that and not think that like he was moving. Like my impression was that he might miss all of this area, and then he clearly is just progressing faster because he's a freak of nature named Carson Wentz. But my expectation is that he's going to be playing week 1, right? I mean,
yeah, and I mean, as Eagles fans remember, when they first acquired Sam Bradford, he was coming off of an ACL injury, and it was 2015 for his off-season practices. And keep in mind, he tore his ACL in I believe it was late August back in 2015. Or 2014 season, but he tore it in August, so he had a 2 or 3 month head start on Carson Wentz, and he did nothing for OTAs. He just stood there.
Well, because with Sam Bradford, you have to remember, there's always the risk that he just injures his other knee when he goes out there.
So I mean, that's a little bit of a different situation. But my point is, the fact that Wentz is doing all this, I think is extremely encouraging. Now, to me, he looked like he could play today, but I'm not a doctor, and there's a difference between doing the drills and just get into
potentially
taking hits, obviously. But I think he can already move well enough where he could play. So at this point, it's just a matter of his knee being able to take a hit, and that'll come. I mean, they don't have to play today. It's still May. They have all the way until the first week of September. So to me, I did think Carson Wentz would play, but you're never sure because of an injury. And I saw a tweet today. Ryan Tannehill was a full go for OTAs, and he had a 4-month head start on Carson Wentz as well. And so, you're talking about 4 months from Carson's injury and all that. So, you were looking at realistically week 2, 3, 4 when he'll actually be physically ready to play in terms compared to what other quarterbacks have done. But it seems like he really is ahead of the curve. And
I mean, it's crazy not to cut you off, but he suffered the injury like in late December, middle of December. And usually it's 9 to 12 month recovery. That would mean he would have, in theory, should have missed the entire season. Which at 10 years ago, he probably misses all of this year. Mm-hmm. But just the way everything they have available to them now, it's pretty remarkable that we're talking about him playing week 1 when he just suffered the injury less than a year ago.
And I also think there's a part of it. I don't know if you picked up on this, if you agree with this or not, but to me, it seemed yes, today was a football practice, but the reality of the NFL is a monster way more than football. And this was our first practice where the whole time there was cameras there. All the reporters were there, Wentz talked beforehand. Everyone knows that what happened today is going to be magnified because it is the only time we see him this week. To me, I think Wentz went out there today with a message to show, this is my team. I'm the quarterback. I'm going to be back. I am healthy. I mean, even when he wasn't practicing or doing the individual drills, during the team drills, he was talking to Doug Peterson. Doug said before practice that him and Wentz still meet and talk about plays in the playbook. And you could see Wentz talking with Foles, talking with Sudfeld. And I think today was a little bit of a message Wentz sent, this is still my team. And I think not that it's needed, but the reality is, Nick Foles is Super Bowl MVP. I mean, that's just,
I was going to say, it was kind of funny that we all were there and nobody, actually cared about what's going on with Nick Foles. We were all so focused on Wentz, and I think that kind of said everything about the fact that this is his team. I mean, maybe even the players are talking about Carson Wentz in the locker room afterwards when we talked to them. Guys were talking about how they're not even surprised that he's back. So, he's clearly been around the team trying to become that leader again. And it's remarkable that the Super Bowl MVP is kind of an afterthought already.
And I was thinking about this earlier in the week when I was writing an article. I'm not trying to drop a serious hot take here, but it isn't a stretch to say that Wentz to a certain degree has to reprove himself to his teammates. And here's why. I mean, if let's say Wentz doesn't go down last year and they don't win the Super Bowl, everyone still thinks Carson Wentz is far and away the best quarterback on this team. I'm not saying players in the locker room disrespect Foles, but I think everyone knew that Wentz is better. But now, with Foles having shown he can win a Super Bowl, if Wentz comes out and struggles, I do think there's more of players saying to themselves, well, I mean, look, Foles played really well for us last year. So it is crazy to think, but I do feel like there's a part of Wentz that knows it, and there's a part of Wentz, if he thinks that it's true, he has to come in and reprove, yes, I'm still the man on this team. I am still the starting quarterback. I am the best quarterback. I'm the quarterback that deserves to play. And I think today was the first step publicly, at least kind of reassuring people and showing that that's the case.
Yeah, I think I would say there's a greater than 0% chance that if Wentz struggles, that there's going to be guys calling for Nick Foles. Greater than 0. Not necessarily saying that people will say that Wentz needs to be benched or anything like that, but like it's going to be in the back of people's mind, and Wentz knows that. I mean, he saw how everybody embraced Nick Foles around town and around this locker room, and he's heard Nick Foles talk about how he wants to be a starting quarterback. I know they have a great relationship, but yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty surprising if that wasn't in the back of his head. Like, I need to go out there and prove that this is still my team.
So, as you mentioned, during the individual drills, everyone was looking at Wentz, but when they did get the team, it was only Foles, Sudfeld, and Callahan. Callahan
looks like he's like 5'3" next to those guys.
Yeah, he is a small guy, especially compared to all the Eagles quarterbacks are
They're
pretty
all 6'5",
tall.
but yeah.
But no, Callahan looked awful. He's gonna be this year. He's gonna be this year.
Yeah,
this year's McGloin.
So much for the idea that he was like pushing Nate Sudfeld. Or
right?
something.
Yeah. No, he is terrible. But I didn't think the quarterbacks in general played very well today.
Yeah.
Foles had 2 really bad interceptions. One where he threw it deep to try to hit Mike Wallace, who had a step on Jalen Mills.
Wallace was deep, like alone.
Yeah, and he badly threw that one. And then he had a really bad interception along the sideline to I believe it was Sidney Jones that picked it off. He was trying to hit Aguilar. So Foles did not play well. But when I was watching this and I'm tweeting, and I love live tweeting, I love training camp, I love overreaction, I love all that stuff. While I was doing it, I was thinking, like, it's just so silly to think what a small stage this is for Foles. I mean, he literally...
And he's knocking off Russ from not playing for
he just
2 months.
He just won the Super Bowl. He out-dueled Tom Brady, and I'm out here tweeting
Cut him.
Yeah, I'm out here tweeting like, man, this is a rough practice for him. So the Super Bowl does put everything in context. I mean, if you cover the Patriots, you're probably like, even a bad, Week 14 loss, you're like, who even cares about this? But it is funny how that puts everything in perspective. But no, I thought Foles didn't play well today. But like you mentioned, doesn't really kind of matter. Sudfeld, though, does matter. It does matter how he looked. It does matter how he plays.
It's not 100%. I think I wrote about this the other day. It's not 100% lock that they keep 3 quarterbacks
no.
if Sudfeld doesn't look good. Like, that's a valuable roster spot. And if Wentz is healthy like we think he will be, like Sudfeld has to prove that he belongs here. I know they've talked about him pretty positively in the press, but, I mean, that's all public. We don't know what they think about him. So if he comes out here and struggles, I mean – I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't make the 53.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot because, like you said, if Wentz is going to be active in Week 1, I mean, maybe you still hold on to him because you want him as insurance for Wentz, as in he's then Foles' backup. I mean, he was a snap away from playing the Super Bowl last year. So I do think, but look, like you're saying, that third roster spot for the quarterback position is a very valuable one, especially in years like this where linebackers, I mean, we'll talk about Paul Warlow, but linebacker position, they have a ton of different options there. Running back, I mean, defensive line, defensive tackle, there's a ton of different interesting things. I mean, especially with Jernigan, you put him on the pup.
Running back, I don't know if you mentioned that. They have a lot of guys there.
Right, so it's going to be tough to do the roster spots. So in terms of Nate Sudfeld, I do think that's going to be a tough decision for them.
Something we're going to keep an eye on all summer for sure.
And I didn't think he helped himself today for the first practice. He didn't. He had the one interception in the end zone that I remember. That was a bad throw. He had a few touchdowns in the red zone, but I mean, red zone touchdowns in training camp don't mean a ton. They're pretty easy to do. You run you run 4 or 5 plays in a row from the 4-yard line. So, any other takeaways of the quarterback play in general outside of Wentz?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Like the first thing, I mean, besides Wentz, like I really did. It really blew me away how much shorter Joe Callahan was than the other. Like I know they're big guys, but like it just stuck out. Like this is a guy that,
and that was the same thing with
found
McGloin.
Hanging out over by the street, and they're like, "Hey, you want to throw some balls real quick?"
Right? Yeah, like that was the same.
Like
thing
that
with
guy's
McGloin.
not going to be around here. Like I think he's like a local kid. I think he's from like Delaware or something. But I mean, it's a cool story for now, but he won't be here long.
So nickel cornerback, that was the other big question coming into this practice. It was our first chance.
Actually, this is probably the main thing we learned today, I think.
Right. I mean, that's the good thing about these practices is they have to line up in first, second, third team. Yeah. I mean, that's just reality of the situation. So you get a real good look at how they're viewing
the depth chart.
The depth chart. Yeah. So nickel cornerback's the biggest question with Patrick Robinson having left, and they made it clear right from the jump. Like they weren't switching people in and out. They opened, if I remember correctly, their first drill they opened in a nickel defense, and it was Jalen Mills on the outside, Ronald Darby on the outside, and Sidney Jones as your nickel corner, taking over for Patrick Robinson. Sidney talked about it afterwards, about how he's never played nickel. He practiced it a little bit in college. He made it sound like this is going to be one of those things where they start him out there and everyone's going to get a turn, but they started him there for a reason. I think they're confident Jalen can do it in a pinch, but I think it's pretty clear in an ideal world they want Sidney Jones to be their nickel corner. What do you think of that decision of giving him the first thing? Would you have kept him on the outside, considering he is basically a rookie, or do you like them putting him in at nickel?
Well, that's the thing. It's very interesting. I know it's still early, so they could change their mind in theory, but I think we all kind of assumed it would be Jalen Mills. They would move inside when they went to the nickel, and Sidney would play on the outside, right? Wasn't that kind of our assumption?
Yeah.
So, like, I was a little surprised by that, because especially hearing you say that he said he had never played the nickel before. It's surprising, but I mean, in theory, they think he's a super talented guy, and they probably are high enough on him that they think he can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Mills made it sound like they even like talked to him about like moving to other positions. Like, it seems like this is set. Like, he's the slot, and those two guys are on the outside, barring injury.
Right.
And we'll find out how committed they are to that, over the next couple times we see them practice. But it's a risk for sure. This is a guy that is essentially a rookie. He didn't play most of last year. I think he didn't practice most of the year as well, at least fully.
Right.
So they're going to find out pretty quickly if he's ready to take on. Practice Robinson was one of the MVPs of the defense last year. Like, it's an important role.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a starting role. Now, today, watching him, it is tough to see at times, I mean, with corners, because you don't always know responsibility, especially in practices like this. I thought he played well, though. I mean, I didn't see him get beat. He had the interception.
Yeah,
he had the interception, which was basically thrown right to him, but he still made the play on it. So it looks like that's their plan going forward. In terms of the other lineups, or I guess, the way they had the offense-defense set up, one of the other main takeaways was just that, I mean, Jason Peters was in there with the first-team offense at left tackle. Jordan Hicks was in there.
And they were also only playing two linebackers, it seemed like.
Right, most of the time, which is why Sidney was out there. But they had Jordan Hicks in there. So it seems like health-wise, everyone seems like it's looking pretty good to go. I mean, the fact that Peters was out there, and again, there's no pads, but in terms of having a leg injury, I mean, you're really moving a lot in these team drills. I mean, you're backing up. You're playing football. You're playing the position outside of hitting. So the fact that he was out there, I thought, was a very positive sign. At this point, it seems like he is going to be, obviously, your starter.
And with him, it seemed like, he has this reputation of being such a leader on this team. And, you could just see it. Like, he was pulling Jordan Mailata, who's never played football before. Like, Jason Peters has been in the league for, 15 years, and he's 36, and he's a Hall of Famer. He doesn't need to do this. He's pulling aside this rookie who's never played football before and, showing him how to do drills. I just found that very interesting, that this is a guy who might have retired last year if he didn't get hurt, and he's still just kind of taking time out of practice to pull a guy aside, tell him, hey, you need to do it this way, you're doing it wrong. I think that says a lot about. I mean, you can see why they love him so much in that locker room, and why everybody was so upset when he got hurt last year,
and why they keep him. Honestly, I mean, he's still a very good player,
even
but
beyond the playing part, he's almost like a coach out there for them.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is a further down the line conversation, but, Doug Pearson's been asked about if he thinks Peters would be a good coach, and Peters hasn't really talked about that, but, I agree with you. When you watch him, I mean, he does seem to love to teach football, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes down that path. But another big piece of the news from today was Paul Warrilow. I believe it was a 7-on-7 drill in the red zone. He's crossing, covering somebody. He bumps into a knee of another linebacker. Not 100% sure it was. I thought it was Corey Nelson, but he bumps knees, goes down, immediately starts to pound the ground, immediately takes his helmet off. You could tell right away it was pretty bad, and he ends up getting carted off. He ends up with an air cast on his right leg, and there's been no announcement yet. I don't think it's going to be good. I would be surprised if you see Paul Warrilow play this season. To me, it seems like he probably tore a muscle.
I mean, it was... It went silent in there. When it happened,
everyone went down on a knee.
Yeah, I asked. I was talking to Nate Gary in the locker room afterwards, who's in line to get more touches with guys like that getting hurt, and he was all excited about his future. And then I kind of brought up how tough was it to see Paul go down? His face went down. He kind of got sad. They aren't like that unless everybody kind of knows that it's a serious injury.
So he's probably gone.
And he just signed with the Eagles. He was going to be a key special teams guy, and it's unfortunate. I think he's from Delaware.
R.I.P. Paul Warrilow. It was good talking about you for the last 3 weeks.
Known,
yeah. But, all right, so now that he's probably gone, they're going to have Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham. Here's the linebackers currently on the roster. Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks, Corey Nelson, Grugier Hill, Nate Geary, Joe Walker, some undrafted rookie named Asante Brown that's not going to make the team, and Leroy Reynolds. So, realistically looking at that, you're going to have Hicks, Bradham, Kendricks. I would say Nelson's pretty much a lock now that Warrilow's down. So
it seems like they're pretty high on Gary, too. Basically, he's getting some first-team reps.
Yeah, no, Gary did take a lot more reps today with the first team than I expected.
And he looks bigger talking to him. He bulked up.
All right, so there you go. So I would say he is the fourth linebacker. So there's 4, then Corey Nelson's 5. Camus, Grugier Hill, they probably keep him for special teams. That's 6. So you have 6 there. I think last year they had 7 at the roster at some
So
point.
maybe Reynolds replaces Warlow?
Yeah, or I mean, there's still Joe Walker, but they seem like
Joe
they
Walker.
soured on him a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, he was the starting linebacker last season at one point, but that was a pretty
Didn't
brief,
really show much,
yeah,
though.
brief role for him.
I mean, they signed Donnell Ellerbe like late in the season and started him over him.
Right, yeah. So I would say you're looking at those 7 linebackers. Kendricks didn't practice today. I believe he's still recovering from
He had like an
surgery.
ankle injury.
Yeah,
I think,
so he wasn't out there for that. But no, I mean, so you got those 6 or 7 guys. Warlow, I believe, was going to make the team. Now that he is probably going to be on IR all year, I do think.
Or even if he's not and he misses all of the preseason and training camp, like he's probably not going to make the team.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think he's going to be on IR. I don't think he's back. So that's that. Roy Reynolds probably takes that roster spot. So in general, I mean, look, like you said, they went with a lot of 2 linebackers today, which they did last season as well. So you're really only looking at Jordan Hicks and Nigel Bradham.
That kind of emphasizes, not to cut you off, but that kind of emphasizes the importance of Hicks staying healthy.
Right.
They don't really have any experience behind them, or at least guys that like have been proven NFL. Like Corey Nelson, I think he went in for Hicks at one point as like the sub in the middle linebacker spot.
Mm-hmm.
I know he played that a little bit in the 3-4 in Denver, but Hicks has to stay healthy this year. They didn't draft any guys, which I was pretty surprised about. They haven't really signed like starting level players, so he needs to stay healthy, or they just have to hope Michael Kendricks doesn't get traded. I guess
It is funny when you think like, I agree, Jordan Hicks has to stay healthy, Carson Wentz has to stay healthy, and like. All those guys
that weren't healthy last
year.
Yeah,
and they won the Super Bowl. So
maybe they don't. I don't know.
But no, I agree. I do think this year, I mean, look, you can still move Nigel over. You still have Kendricks to go in there. I think their linebackers this year at backup are basically the same. I mean, unless Nate Gary takes a step up.
Yeah.
I thought he played well last year in training camp. Training camp too, but the preseason. Then I feel like in Week 17 against Dallas, he made a nice play in pass coverage. So I do think he has.
He's interesting because he was a safety and he's converted to linebacker, so it gives a little versatility.
Got a little bit of a wild card there in terms. I think the other guys are just guys. Corey Nelson's just a guy. Camus Grugier-Hill is just a guy. Nate Gary's the only one I think you could potentially see turned in to an actual like NFL caliber playmaker starter. But yeah, no, the Paul Warlow thing, I mean, Doug Peterson said to the team's website, the number one thing you want out of OTAs is to remain healthy. And the first day they lose a guy they signed. So
within like the first hour.
Within the first hour. So not good. So outside of linebacker position, the other spot they're really deep at, and again, today all the guys weren't there, but Darren Sproles wasn't there. But at running back, they have Sproles, they have Ajayi, they have Clement, Donnell Pumphrey, Josh Adams, the other guy they signed from
Adams
Washington.
didn't practice today, though, right?
Didn't practice, yep. Matt Jones, who, by the way, has shaved his dreadlocks. So he couldn't really figure out who he was for a large portion of the practice.
He's still huge, though. Like, that dude's big.
Yeah, he is. He's very tall. So what were your takeaways from watching the running backs today? Because to me, I had one clear takeaway. So let's hear yours first.
It's just that they're really deep there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Matt Jones, like I said, I mean, I noticed, I didn't, like you said, it was hard to realize that was him. I was like, is that Josh Adams?
Right.
But he's a big dude. They don't have any other guys that kind of quite look like him. I know Donnell Pumphrey, this is kind of the first time we've seen him in a while. He's clearly shifty. He's still a little small. And I still think it's going to be a battle for him to make the team, but he's for what he also was there at punt returner, which might be his path onto the roster if he can show that he can be a punt returner as well as like a pass catcher. But he's going to be the one that we're going to be keeping our eye on. Him and Josh Adams, if he gets healthy, I think are the ones I'm going to be watching. And Wendell Small would like fumble the ball.
Yeah, he's not going to make.
He's not making the team.
So my 2 takeaways. The first main one was you touched on it, but Pumphrey. So it's been, I think I count like 10 months since we last saw Pumphrey with a helmet on playing football, and I don't think he looked that much bigger. I mean, maybe a little bit, but to me, just watching him run, like he has something that none of the other running backs have, especially with Darren Sproles not there. Like he has elite speed when he's in the open field. Now the issue is getting him in the open field, but this time last year when we were talking about Doug Peterson, you didn't talk about him as an elite play caller, an elite play designer. And to me, watching Pumphrey today, like my takeaway was just, man, if this guy, I would just love to see Doug game plan around this guy because he's not going to be a 20 carry guy like he was in San Diego State, or probably more than that per game. I mean, he touched the ball a ton at San Diego State. He's not going to be that in the NFL, but you want to talk about a guy that if you split him out wide and get the wrong matchup on him and just get the ball in his hands in an open space, he is going to be very difficult to bring down. And that was the thing about him in training camp and preseason last year. Like, he was not good. He averaged 1.9 yards per carry, and there's no denying he
was
wasn't
battling a hamstring thing, but yeah, still.
Well, I just feel like his performance last year has almost been overblown because people are like, he was bad, and then it was, well, he was
like,
really bad, and then it was, and it just slowly grows into more than it actually
it got to the
was.
point where people have already moved on from him. Like,
right.
people are like forgot his existence or something.
Right, so no one ever talks about him unless it's, oh, he's not going to make the team. And I'm not saying he is, but I did think today he showed that there's a reason he went in the 5th round. I mean, it was the 4th or 5th round. There's a reason he was drafted and didn't go undrafted like a lot of running backs on their roster. So I do think that if given the opportunity in training camp to make plays in space, especially in preseason, I think he's a guy that a lot of people are going to turn around on because he's just lightning quick with the ball. He's got very good hands out of the backfield, and he's got a year. I mean, look, like this is a guy that was undersized, and now he's had a year just to work on his body, to be an NFL professional player. Yeah, all those things. I mean, in college, even though I'm not saying, it's the most rigorous study, you are still a student, and now he's had a year for a guy whose clear issue was his physical stature. Now he's had a year to work on it. I'm just very interested to see what he's going to do. But my other takeaway was Jay Ajayi consistently getting starting reps today at running back. I kind of thought that would have been Corey Clement. Well, maybe I was obviously just wrong about that.
I told you. I predicted this. I think on our last podcast I said.
All right. Well, there you go. So you were right. But
it's still the first practice, and Sproles isn't here. But yeah,
right. And I'd be interested where Sproles would have been had he been here. But I think when you look at the Jay Ajayi situation, you can look at it a few ways. One is
you're not talking about the partying situation in L.A., right?
No, we're not talking about his Airbnb preferences. But with Jay Ajayi, I do think that he, with a year left on his contract, probably not going to be back. Maybe he would be, but I would guess not. I think they're ready just maybe to run him into the ground and see.
Interesting.
And so, because they're
so you're saying because in their head they're not going to bring him back anyway,
right.
So let's use what we got.
And he's got the knee issues, so I that's something long term you'd worry about.
He's talented enough that it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, and I think he looked quick today. I mean, not as quick as Pumphrey, but he is, for a guy that's way bigger than Pumphrey, I think he looked very quick. Well, I mean, I think he looked quicker than last year. Now he doesn't have pads on, and he's got 3 months off, so that's probably why. But thought he looked very good. He got almost all the first team reps from what I can remember. And Corey Clement was the backup.
What I thought was interesting with Clement is I saw him split him out wide a few times. And,
yeah.
And, I mean, considering this time last year he was looked at as kind of like a power back, and for most of the year he was only coming in with short yardage. And then in the Super Bowl, of course, he breaks out, has 100 receiving yards.
Right.
I don't think that was a one-off. I think we're going to see there's going to be situations where they play Ajayi and they split Clement out wide, I think.
And we see if Pumphrey takes any of those.
That's obviously Sproles' skill set. But I think Clement, I think they want him to be able to do that. And if he builds that, if this year he spends the whole year as a goal line back / receiving back, that's going to make him all the better next year if he takes over as the number one guy.
So, all right, rookies that stood out to you today. Now, we got a chance to watch the rookie minicamp practice last week, but that was just individuals, and it was, pretty, it wasn't much to really watch besides see what these guys look like.
Rookies, yeah.
Right. So, but now that we had a chance to really see him play today, to me, I thought one rookie really stood out. But to you, who was your main standout from the rookies?
Well,
and you're not allowed to take my guy.
I think I know who your guy is.
All
so
right.
I'll say one guy that I was intrigued by was Avonte Maddox.
All right, he would have been my number 2.
Yeah, because I really like how aggressive he is. He's
Mm-hmm.
You saw him. They used him on blitzes a few times. He was around the. I think he dropped one interception he could have had.
Yeah, it would have been tough though. I mean, it was behind him. He got his hands
but
on
I mean, he the fact that he was in
a game, if he drops it, everyone right.
Yeah. But I mean, he's intriguing. I don't know if the fact that Sidney Jones is playing the slot, that actually might even be give him an opportunity to get some playing time there if he shows he's ready.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I like it for his size. He's 5'9". He's super aggressive, and clearly doesn't matter. He clearly doesn't care that he's smaller than everybody out there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. So they had him on the outside quite a bit, but then at certain points had him in a nickel as well. And he did play both at Pittsburgh. Now he didn't play nickel a ton at Pittsburgh, but he did play it. So it seemed like they're going to move him around a little bit.
Than
yeah, he's already got more than Sidney Jones. Yeah, but he, from what I can remember, he was with the third team basically all the time. Devontae Bosby, the guy from last year that was on the practice squad most of the year. Yeah, he had a really nice interception. He was getting a ton of second team reps. He was on the second team with Rasul Douglas.
Doug Peterson mentioned him early this offseason as a slot potential guy.
Yeah, so I don't think he'll make the team, but as a 6 cornerback, if they don't feel Maddox is ready,
worse,
I feel like he might he could have a shot. But to me, the rookie that stood out was Josh Sweat, defensive end out of Florida State. Yeah, I mean, the dude is just a physical freak. Like every time,
you just watch him and be like, "How's this dude like here right? Like how did I get him?" Like
especially
that's
after
what I was thinking.
especially after seeing Vinny Curry last year wear number 75, and then you see Josh Sweat.
I didn't think they have the same
like,
number.
And I'm not saying, I mean, Vinny Curry was a very good player, but just in terms of like physical prowess, I mean, Josh Sweat, he's huge, and he's not just huge, he is very fast. So today, there was a play where Corey Clement, it was either a run or a pass, but he was running down the middle of the field, and Josh Sweat like turned on the burners to try to get him, and he covered 15 yards in what seemed like roughly 2 seconds. I mean, he was flying. I mean, he's got long legs, long arms, so when he runs and he really gets going, it was like watching like a deer, like a greyhound sprint.
Gazelle,
it was impressive. And then on the next play, I was going to say he got a sack, or what would have been a sack on Nate Sudfeld. Now, it was against Jordan Mailata, so I'm not saying it was the most impressive thing in the world, but
and again, they're in shorts and all that crap,
right. But I mean, he's an impressive guy, and I thought today what really stood out is just, I'm not saying he's the best athlete on the team, but he's pretty close.
I mean, like if you consider relative to his size and everything like that,
right?
Like he might be top 5. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's definitely top 5.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this is in shorts and it's the first day and all that, but just the way he just like stands out amongst NFL players just makes me think like if he's just playing in a limited pass rushing role this year, like he can make an impact even if he only gets the 4 or 5 sacks. I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, if we have 4 or 5 sacks, Derek Burnett had 5.5 last year.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I just think he has that potential though.
Yeah, they put him in the right situation.
He doesn't need to play. Let him focus on the pass rushing this year. Work on his, in practices, get him good at run stopping and stuff, so he can take over for Brandon Graham in theory next year.
Right.
So I mean, you walk away from that thinking like they got a steal right there, provided his knee holds up.
All right. So before we move on to the topic of the White House, any other takeaways you had from today's practice?
No. I mean, Elijah Qualls didn't look bad.
Yeah, he had a good day.
I know he's a guy that you weren't very high on coming into this.
Well, I've had a roller coaster relationship with him. I was high on him last year.
I didn't realize how short he was.
Yeah, he's
really short for a defensive. I mean,
that can
be
stout.
good because you can get a low center of gravity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They need him to step up. They need some. Destiny Vallejo. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think you got that one right. Yeah.
He was on the first team with Jernigan out. And I thought that's notable.
And no Nada.
That means and no Nada there. So that means they trust Vallejo still. He played, I think, like 11 games last year.
Yeah, that might just be he knows the defense.
I know.
But Qual should know it too.
I'm saying if Vallejo is the guy he has to beat out, I think there's room for him to be the next guy in. And if Nada can't play all the time and he can't practice all the time, like there's some playing time available there, especially if Jernigan's out as long as I think he's going to be.
Right, and if he starts the year on PUP. I mean, that's 6 games right there. So, I agree. So, definitely a ton to take away from a football perspective. But one of the biggest stories surrounding this team right now is the White House. To me, I mean, there's a lot of ways to talk about this. But to me, my biggest takeaway is it's just so interesting to see how each player views it differently and how some people, it clearly means a lot. Some people don't seem to care. Some people care enough, but it's just, to me, it's been very interesting. So Doug today basically, and the players are outside of Malcolm. They all seem so nervous when they talk about it.
Yeah, somebody pointed that out. Like when somebody asked Carson Wentz at the end of his press conference today, and he started answering. He's like, "I don't think it's a political thing. I don't like talking about politics, but I'll do whatever the team wants to do." That's pretty much the answer I got from guys. I don't know about you, but when I talked to guys in the locker room, it was all. Whatever the team wants to do. I haven't really thought about it. There's guys that's
they're definitely not trying to rock the boat.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about Wentz being nervous is and I've told this story a few times on the podcast, but I first met Carson Wentz at the Senior Bowl, when he was just starting to become Carson. And I remember talking to him in a hallway, just me and him, and he was this young dude, he had glasses on, and just seeing him go from there to where he was last year, I've never seen this guy be rattled. And I'm not saying he was rattled by any means at the podium, but
he wasn't comfortable.
Yeah, it was an answer where he clearly had an answer prepared that he wanted to say, and he got off script a little, and basically saying he doesn't view it as a political thing, but he does think that he would go, and he said I'll go if most guys go. It's just a weird answer he gave. But I think overall, like you said, a lot of guys that I talked to today said they would go if other teammates did. They didn't seem to care a lot. Malcolm Jenkins obviously feels very strongly about it. And my main takeaway is just, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Democrat, Republican, whatever. Like, it's just got to suck that they win the Super Bowl. They have a chance to go to the White House.
This is what people are
talking
about.
This is what it is. Like, even if I'm sure there's guys on the team that are huge Trump supporters. And even if you are one of those people that supports Trump, and even if like, whatever, it still is taking away from it because some of your teammates aren't going to go. There's going to be discussions of whether the team should go. Whereas, even though when like Obama was president or George Bush or Clinton, the presidents before this, yes, there's discussion of it, but it was never like this. So that's just my main takeaway when I talk to these guys. Like, they won the Super Bowl, they have a chance to go to the White House, which is a cool experience no matter how you look at it. And they have to worry if they go, if it's viewed as
They're
like
making a statement, yeah.
Yeah. And I just think that sucks for them. It's just got to suck to have that be the case. It's
almost become a distraction, like this White House visit, which I don't know if it ever has been.
Yeah,
before.
but once it happens on June 5th,
it'll go. I'm just saying, like, for the first day of OTAs, that was a question every single player received. Like, that's not something they really wanted to talk about.
And for guys like Malcolm, who are,
outspoken and
yeah, but not just outspoken, but like extremely, extremely educated on the subject of what's going on.
Yeah.
Malcolm puts his fists up during the anthem because he believes minorities aren't treated fairly.
He's the head of the Players Coalition and all
that.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you think like, oh, they're just not going just to not go, like, Malcolm is not going because he has deep beliefs that he has formed from educating himself on the subject. Now, there could be someone out there who's just as educated that has a different belief, and that's fine. And that's the thing with Malcolm is whenever you talk to him, like he said, if you want to go to the White House, fine. Like, it doesn't bother him, but he's not going. And it'll be interesting how that day goes on June 5th when they do go. I mean, Malcolm was talking about potentially doing an event. I mean, he wouldn't give specifics. Yeah, my guess is it's going to be some type of community event that day. It's just going to be an interesting day. I mean, they're supposed to be practicing that day, and it looks like they won't be now.
I feel like I'm curious how that's going to work exactly. I guess they'll probably bust them over.
Yeah, I mean, last year they canceled it to go paintballing, so I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. But no, I mean, it's just life of Super Bowl champion. It'll be, and if they go, we'll be there, and it'll be interesting what that mood is like.
Hashtag Super Bowl problems, as opposed
to
hashtag first world problems.
Exactly. So, all right, we're going to wrap this up. They'll have another practice next week. We'll do another podcast after that to talk about our observations. But I wanted to end this with a review. Obviously, reviews have slowed down a little bit, which is disappointing. But we would love if you guys were to leave a review. So this review is from Philly Fan 18. It's called Morning Drive, 5-star review. It says, I'm a huge Eagles fan from California. Every morning I drive my hour-and-a-half commute to work. There's nothing better than listening to your team and football knowledge on my Super Bowl 52 champions. I work in the ER as a registered nurse. The environment is stressful at times. We call it the jungle. You guys rock. Thanks for making my morning commute a much better drive into work. Fly, Eagles, fly. So, very nice.
That's awesome.
Appreciate that. And to everyone that's been listening, we really appreciate it. Like I said, we are going to have a podcast next week. I think they practice on Tuesday of next week. So everyone out there, enjoy your weekend off, and we'll be back on Tuesday. And Zach, I'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.